Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. Harvey Levin here.
Charlie Neff here.
Courtney here.
Charles here.
We have a lot to talk about today. Let's start with Kanye. So in our fair city, there was a huge concert last night.
A huge concert that was amazing at the LA Coliseum. Kanye featuring Drake. I thought that was interesting.
It really is.
The headliner is Kanye featuring Drake. But they had a truce and they came together on a stage. And you can't even just call it a stage. It looked
like a platform.
It looked like a spaceship. Like they were performing on top of a spaceship. It was
Kanye's creative though.
And the entire field of the LA Coliseum was essentially the stage. And they walked in together, and then Kanye performed for about an hour, and then Drake performed for about 30, 40 minutes.
They even sang some of each other's
and then
songs.
they came back out together, and
And Kanye did all his old hits, so it was just like amazing experience. But did Kanye get top billing and was the headliner because he's the one who reached out to Drake?
I would think so.
Probably, right? He was like, I get that.
I thought what was really interesting, really cool to see Kanye and Drake put their long-standing beef aside to come together for this concert.
Oh, for the concert. But
we'll see today.
They sang together. They did each other's songs.
They walked in
it was
together.
Awesome.
They were on stage together. They walked out together, shoulder to shoulder. They weren't like...
And the Coliseum was packed.
Over 70,000 people.
Packed. Absolutely packed.
God, that's unbelievable.
So,
don't they have jobs?
What are you talking about? You're not going to miss
Some of your staff was there, Harvey.
Yeah, I know. And we talked, Brad said it took him 3 hours to get to
there.
Seat.
Yeah,
to get there?
To get there.
Is there not a metro?
And that wasn't just LA traffic. Yes, there was bad traffic. He said once he got there, the will call was backed up, and just parking and getting into the Coliseum was a nightmare,
But the concert was probably worth it.
I would think so. Look.
Brad doesn't seem upset that he was there.
Oh, he was very happy he was there.
And look, to see Kanye do all his big hits, which I wouldn't expect. He hasn't done that in a long time. And he came right out and did all the hits. And even at the end of one of them referenced Kim. Who was there, by the way. Kim and some of their kids were there as well.
Kendall was there.
Some of the other sisters were there.
Kris Jenner.
There were tons of celebrities there also. This was they kept on TV, they kept cutting away to some people backstage. After Kanye did his set, he came off and then he was getting congratulations from everybody while Drake was performing. And even they cut away while Kanye was performing and Drake was engaged, was looking at the stage, was singing along to Kanye's songs.
Aww.
So
Kanye's amazing in concert. This is nothing new. He's so creative. We saw him take over the whole entire Donda stage when he did that at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yep.
Kanye's so creative. So when you go to see his shows, you expect something like this.
So I was
so mad I wasn't there.
I got to say something. This is from my seat, just watching what happens with celebrities in this crazy world. When he ran for president and he wore that MAGA hat, everybody turned on him, and it felt like people were saying, we're done with Kanye West. And I heard this over and over and over, and people were talking about it. They were saying, we disavow him, we don't like him anymore. All the things he was saying, it's like an Etch-a-Sketch that just got erased.
Because at the end of the day, he's an incredible artist.
I'm not saying
you
it's
put
bad.
out a good album, people are going to
No,
forget.
I think that's right.
Well,
and a lot of people
hold on.
think...
One thing, it's you put out a good album, but I think everyone acknowledges that Kanye has mental health issues, and he's acknowledged that. And so I think people give him some leeway, as they should.
They didn't when he was wearing the MAGA hat.
Of course,
Because
they're not going. Of course, they're not going to say while he's wearing the hat and saying those things. They're not going to say, "Oh, that's okay." Yeah, that's when they're going to back away. Not everybody, when that was happening, not everybody said, I hate Kanye.
A lot of people.
They just
People
didn't
aren't
say
saying
anything.
they're going to stop listening
Right.
to the old hits.
Oh, a lot of people.
They just don't like politics and entertainment. So if he stays in his lane, it's okay for people. And this is him in his lane.
Right, but there were a lot. I don't know if you remember, but I remember.
Yeah, no, I remember.
I feel like it's also a big reason why him and Kim
hold
split.
on. I don't remember people vocally coming out saying,
we're done with him.
Blank Kanye, and I'm never ever going to deal with Kanye again. There were not a lot of people who did that.
There were people in our office who did that.
Of course, but you're talking about celebrities in town, right?
Yeah.
And most celebrities just didn't say anything.
It was kind of
not
like
my recollection.
Okay.
Okay.
It was just like a
What did he say about
moment.
Kim?
Well, so he was saying this line, "Run right back to me," and then he inserted specifically Kimberly, and then the crowd went crazy.
Yeah.
And
he said her full name.
Run right back to me. One in particular,
Kimberly.
Yeah.
And
So-
she's there, so it's like
I
kind
wish
of
I knew
awkward.
her reaction.
I know this was streamed on Apple. When he
Prime.
when he said that, did they cut to her?
No.
Ah,
I know. I wanted to
No,
see
they
her
didn't.
reaction.
Yeah. Well, also he was freestyling it, so they had no way of knowing he was going to do that.
Yeah.
The divorce is still.
You know
on.
who I
I'm sure
kind
the
of
director was yelling like, "Where's Kim? Where's
Yeah,
Kim? Get
right?
a shot of Kim."
But you know who I kind of feel bad for is Pete Davidson because he would so want to go to this concert and now he can never go to another Kanye West concert ever again. And to know that you can never do
But
that.
he's probably in New York.
Never say never.
He
Just
goes
like we
to
just
New
said.
York all
Just
the
like we
single
just said,
time.
never say never.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, we are going to move on.
Yeah.
So Jussie Smollett found guilty, 5 out of 6 counts, faces 3 years in prison. You know, I think he's going to get probation, and I'll tell you why. He is a first-time offender. It is a nonviolent crime. The city is suing him for $130,000 for the cost of overtime for the cops, which they'll get. But I think, frankly, the judge is going to order this as part of restitution in the sentence. So nobody really got hurt. Now, it did hurt.
However,
it did
hold
hurt a
on.
couple of causes.
You asked
because
cops in Chicago if nobody got hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, I agree with you. I don't think he's going to get jailed, but I think there's definitely a sentiment in Chicago where people are pissed off at him.
Oh, I think they are.
And they want to see.
Oh, they
well,
are.
certainly cops, I think, want to see some punishment for this. That doesn't mean that he's going to get it. That
I mean, he has to pay them back.
Yeah, he's got to pay back the city. But look, aside from the cops, by the way, making this thing, it's one thing to concoct the hoax, right? But then once you're into it, to continue the lie, and by the way, still continuing the lie.
Right.
I mean, he's up to yesterday insisted, and probably today would still insist that it really did happen, and
And they
really
said
was
they're going
a
to
genuine
appeal.
attack.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, absolutely.
right. That's the part that really gets people. It's like, all right, you came up with the thing, everyone figured it out. Now just let it go. And to continue holding on to it is what I think really pisses people
Well,
off.
you know what would be really interesting to me? Because you're right. I mean, a lot of times contrition really plays a
Right.
huge part in a sentence. It would be really interesting for the judge to say, Mr. Smollett, before I sentence you,
Give you
I want to
one
know
last chance.
what you want to say to me about the events that night.
I would be disappointed if he owned up to it. I want him to
Really?
stick to it and go down. He has
No.
come this far, you guys. Why would he change his way now?
I want
Why?
the truth.
I want the truth.
You're
I want
never
to
gonna
see
get
him
the truth.
apologize.
You're never gonna fully get the
Then
truth.
if he's not going to apologize, then he needs to
So let
be
me
put behind bars.
hold on.
I'm sorry.
Let
Oh,
me
yeah.
ask you. Let me ask you a question. If Jussie Smollett said, "Your Honor, it was fake. I'm so sorry. I faked it." After the whole, I didn't fake it. I didn't fake it. I didn't fake it. If he somehow says that, I
Is
think
it now believable? Now
well,
it's
no,
not believable.
yeah,
now he's only
gonna
doing
get,
it.
He's going to get dragged to
get
save
out.
his ass.
Yeah,
So
but if he
there's
went out,
nothing. It's like
You're
it's
right.
like-
You're
it's-
right. He's screwed at this
he's
point.
screwed.
No,
He can't.
He might as
guys,
well
if,
just ride it
if
out.
he said that, went and did some therapy,
No,
went and put
no.
in the work, he could definitely return to Hollywood.
Well, no, I'm not talking
I-
about
he's already
returning to
been-
I will
Hollywood.
say
I'm
this.
talking about the sentence.
I think he would do it if there was a strong possibility of him getting prison time. But because there really isn't, he doesn't have any prior criminal record.
Yeah, here's the problem.
And-
Here's
But
the
Felicity
problem
Huff-
with it. The problem with that is this: if the judge asks that question, it means it's going to be relevant to the judge in the sentence. And if the only thing that's relevant is, do we get prison time or not? So if you're Jussie and you're standing there and you hear that question and you know the judge is going to factor your answer into the sentence, and that probably means if you don't fess up, you're going to get prison time. What do?
Wow, you got to game that out. you better sit down with your lawyers and game that out.
What do? You
So-
can't.
Yeah.
I mean, the judge says, "I want an
Well,
answer
no, but
now."
I mean, but you
You
got
can't say. You
no,
can't,
hold on. He's going to sit down.
Hold
I'm
on.
not saying that. I'm not saying he calls a
say,
timeout.
if you say, "Hey, Your Honor, I need to talk to my lawyer."
Time out, Your Honor.
so
Time out.
bad.
Time out. No, I mean that he should, before the sentencing, sit down with his lawyers and say, all right, here's how it could go.
Fine. Blah,
and
blah,
then he's
blah,
got to
blah,
decide.
What do you do?
Well, he's got to decide.
Well, what do you do?
I mean, I
You
feel
guys
like
wanna-
he should have admitted to this long ago.
Well, he didn't. He didn't. So
You
now,
guys
what do
wouldn't
you
be
do?
disappointed?
If it's a difference between going to prison or not going to prison, you should show contrition.
We're not going to believe him, though.
The judge is asking, so the judge has to believe him. No, who cares about the public at that point? The public they don't get to decide whether you go to prison. The judge up there does decide, so that's the only person you care about. That's it. I mean, unless you think you can do time.
So here's
I
I know
go
I
down
couldn't,
with
so,
it.
I'm not going to do any time.
Okay, so
Like,
now Jesse's got to say, Hollywood's going to hate me if I do this now. So
They're gonna hate him
career,
regardless.
well, I don't know. I mean,
You don't own up to it.
do you know,
He's gone
it's
this
like
far.
we're in this weird world where Donald Trump is still saying I won the election, and a lot of people are saying the same thing. So you kind of will the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and once you let go of that, you let go of that. So all of a sudden, he's the guy that staged a homophobic, racist attack, and everybody, including him, agrees. He's in a bind in this one.
Yeah.
So
But you
But
guys
do you
keep
want to be in a
saying-
bind behind bars?
Right.
Or do you want to be in a bind sitting in your home, very comfortable, not working?
I
but
get it.
Harvey,
Even
you don't
though
think
that
they'll
collecting
make
your residuals.
you don't think they'll make an example out of
No.
him and put him behind bars?
But
No.
why? Because like Felicity Huffman and like
Because
Lori
that's not
and
the point
Teresa.
of sentencing.
But you said that they're a first-time offender. So was Teresa and so was Felicity Huffman, and they still at least had to do 14 days or like a
Because
certain amount.
there were victims. I mean, they said there were. I mean, I think you could argue there weren't victims with
Right.
Felicity, but
How
that's
was
not.
Teresa? Because she didn't know. It was like all like her
Well,
husband's stuff.
It was tax fraud.
Yeah, but her.
Yeah, I
okay.
mean,
Yeah.
I look. Who knows what's gonna happen here? They could give him, they could give him 3 months. They could give him 6 months and suspend it. I just don't think he's going to do time behind bars. We'll see. Okay, my favorite story, Peloton.
So,
It's like, first of all, Peloton's got to get somebody a little more savvy there to work on.
They got to ask better questions.
better
Right.
questions,
When-
more specific questions.
When a TV production comes to you or a movie and says, hey, we want to put Peloton in, they should ask details. Let me see the script. How are you going to use the Peloton? Because they used it in the Sex and the City reboot, and what's the title? And Just Like That,
Yes.
Yep.
But
which came out.
huge spoiler that you're about to do. So
we did it yesterday in the show.
I know,
But-
but still.
I know, but still people haven't
And
had a
it's still,
chance
we
to
should say
watch.
spoiler. This is actually, I'm told it's not a major plot point.
No, it's
It
the
kinda
first part.
happens
It
in the
sets it all
beginning.
up.
Charles, here's the problem.
All right, here's
no,
here's
okay,
what happened.
let me just say, this trumps the spoiler point because now it's a part of the New York Stock Exchange.
Oh, true.
Right? I mean,
Okay.
the fact that the stock exchange had an impact there.
All right, we've
it's
given
not a
you more.
spoiler.
We've given you plenty of spoiler alert time.
Right.
So I'm just going to say it. Someone dies. One of the cast members dies while riding a Peloton. Not just any cast member.
A big cast member
Big.
Carrie's soulmate
killed
dies.
off
He had a heart
big.
attack.
on a Peloton.
Yeah,
on
so
the
he's on a
saddle.
Peloton.
And by the way,
suffers a
and
heart
there's
attack.
and there's a real Peloton instructor who's playing a Peloton instructor, and so it looks very authentic.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have to
and
say, I want to
so-
go watch that Peloton instructor now
I
and like
know,
take
right?
that class.
I wonder how the
She-
instructor feels.
Oh, she kills.
But side note, you should get her on TMZ Live.
She kills. So,
Okay, so
here's the deal. So that happens. The show comes out on HBO. People watch it and obviously have a very negative reaction toward Peloton because the company's stock dropped 11%?
more than 11%.
17, right?
No, 11.
Oh, I thought it
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you're blurry-eyed, and it was the one. Yeah,
Yes,
it
drops 11%. Now,
Now we got to get into what
Right.
Peloton didn't do here because it's crazy.
right. So they acknowledged that the producers came to them, said they want to put a Peloton in the show, and Peloton said, okay.
And
They didn't
They
ask-
let
probably
you-
thought
and-
it was in the
and
background,
we'll let
not
you-
a
or
part of the
like Carrie was-
storyline.
Nope, because they asked if they could use this instructor. So they knew there was going to be that this would be featured because they asked to use the instructor.
Yeah, but that can still be in the background, and the main
Here's the
talent is
thing.
talking to
They
Here-
probably
someone
thought like
else, and-
Carrie or
But
someone was going to
here's-
be writing it.
Here's the thing
Yeah.
about that, Charlie. It could be in the background or it may be in the foreground. And if you don't know, you ask.
You got to
Yeah,
do
but I have a
homework, that's
question.
for sure.
They got seduced. The people at Peloton got seduced by oh my God, Sex in the City.
We get to be on Sex in
We're gonna
the
be
City.
This is gonna be huge. We're gonna get so many women are gonna be wanting Pelotons, and the holiday season is coming up. This is gonna be perfect. Great timing. Let's do it. What? You killed big on Peloton? There's someone.
Can you imagine the president of Peloton sitting there watching this?
But no press is bad press, and if you don't like your spouse, get him a gift.
Well, look at the stock prices.
I know, but it's going to go back up. Like, this was a good thing for Peloton to be in it. And honestly,
you don't want to show somebody dying of a heart attack.
Whatever.
Now, the next time
I still want a
people get on their
Peloton.
Peloton,
I do too.
and this is the concern for Peloton. Seriously, like we're talking about, the reason the stock drops is because people realize the next time someone gets on a Peloton or they think about buying a Peloton,
They could die.
they're going to think about it at least. They're not going to, most people are not going to die.
No.
That's a fact.
Right.
So
But they're going to think about it.
You know what's really funny? We are now very close to Christmas. If you remember back in
oh my God, the girlfriend?
Yeah,
it was
the
like
girlfriend.
3 years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
It was the same thing with Christmas 3 years ago. I think it was three or four, where they had a commercial on and a guy got his girlfriend a Peloton, basically saying you can stay in shape in the Peloton.
Or lose
and they
some of that weight.
And they got dragged.
Skewered.
And
They got
and
skewered
the
for that.
stock went
But
down.
then look what happened after.
No, I know.
It soared.
My
It's
point
good
is,
publicity.
my
Yeah, it
point
hasn't
is,
hurt them.
they should have learned their lesson about publicity.
But honestly,
back
what
then.
do you do if they call you? This is a huge show. So many people watch
So
it.
here's what you
Harvey,
say.
They're not gonna,
Here's what you say. He's not going to die on our bike.
But I guarantee
First
HBO.
question. Okay, that's great. We want you to use it.
No way.
just to be
Warner Brothers
clear.
and HBO is never going to let that out. That was a huge spoiler, and they taped this so long ago.
Yeah,
They're
but
never
It
going
is
to
a
tell
spoiler,
people.
and too many people will
Yes,
know at that
they,
point.
they're not going to do that.
No, hold on. That's
And
not
they
the way it
probably
works.
signed.
They
It's not
tell
the way it works.
Peloton, and Peloton can't let they have an NDA. So just because they tell Peloton doesn't mean
Those
it's going
work
to get
so
out.
well sometimes.
Well, point being, they
They're
should.
in business with them.
God knows.
It's so funny.
The worst time of year for Peloton people
It's
are
always Christmas.
Okay, Travis Scott.
Yeah.
Woo.
I gotta say, being a lawyer, it is just shocking
Who's
to
a lawyer?
me.
I know. I thought you're not a
What?
practicing lawyer, Harvey.
I am a lawyer,
Nah, we just wanted you to say that. That's all.
I know.
Tricked you.
I'm a lawyer.
and I have just never seen anything quite like this. There's this thing now going on where everybody that's kind of accused of something is going on television or YouTube or whatever to kind of air their grievances, talk about what happened to them, talk about what they say is the real story. Travis Scott did it, and as far as I'm concerned, there is no doubt in my mind he did this against his lawyer's advice, because we had his lawyer on,
yeah.
and when we asked him that, how did you feel about it? All he said was Travis was insistent on it. He didn't say he didn't advise, but come on.
So here's some of what Travis Scott said. He sat down with Charlamagne Tha God and talked about Astroworld. First time he's talking about it. And as you said, Harvey, we know there have been, dozens of lawsuits already filed. There will be more. And this is when you normally don't speak because it can come back to burn you in court. But here he is talking about responsibility. Who should have responsibility? Does Travis feel any responsibility for the 10 deaths at Astroworld?
I have a responsibility to figure out what happened here. I have a responsibility to figure out the solution. I gotta, and hopefully this takes a first step into us as artists, having that more insight of what's going on.
How much responsibility do you think like Live Nation and Scoremore, the promoters, have in all of this?
I mean, they do their job of setting these things up. So, I mean, I think, they when we dial into what, specifically happened here, I feel like, even they can kind of help, figure out what happened in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I think collectively, everyone needs to just figure out the bottom line solution.
So he basically, he avoided the whole thing.
I didn't realize that Travis Scott was such a good
avoided
dancer.
it and he didn't.
My
Because it's
takeaway
so
is
obvious.
he doesn't think he is responsible.
No,
He
my
also
takeaway
can't
is
say
he
it.
can't say it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
he can't say it.
I will say he was clearly very well coached before about what he should not say.
But come on, I mean,
And
we
just
know
kept saying the professional's responsibility.
everybody knows the game at this point. He, by not saying it, you feel like he's saying I'm not responsible. Whether he says it, or not, Do you feel responsibility? And what he says is,
See, I
I
actually think
feel
it's the-
responsible for the future.
Right.
By saying
And
I
let's
feel
make this
responsible
better.
for the
We're all-
future.
even the promoters, he said, yeah, they should figure out how to make this better.
You and I had an argument about this when we put it on the site, because to me, when he says, I feel responsible for the future, to me means not the past.
Right.
But you should.
No,
Because
no, and here's why. Because Harvey, the fact is, he may feel responsible, but because of the lawsuits, he can't say
But
that.
I think
saying it,
but it plays
doesn't
that
mean
way.
doesn't mean that you absolutely feel responsible.
I think it
But no
plays
one's
that.
gonna
So then why-
think
or that
like
you don't
that.
feel
So
responsible.
then
No one's
why
gonna
do
think
the
like that
interview if you
listening.
can't be truthful?
Well, that's
what like I had
exactly,
like a
Courtney.
more like an issue with. Like, don't do it at all. If
She's
you
a
can't,
lawyer,
like,
too.
say it.
No,
Oh, thank
she's
you.
right.
And
Yeah, right.
didn't Alec Baldwin, when he did his interview, he said
He
wasn't
said I'm not. He said
he's not
He
responsible.
flat out said he's not.
He said if
and
I
we were
felt guilty,
shocked
I
by
would
that.
probably kill myself.
Well,
Right.
and it's
Right.
that's going to be damaging to him,
Right.
because if this ends up in court and he gets on the stand and they're going to say you're an executive producer, right? And he's going to say yes, and they're going to say, well, why did you hire an armorer that only had one prior job?
And he's
going to
say that he didn't hire her.
but you're the executive producer. In other words,
I'm a creative producer.
What does that mean?
He's just there to work on the script. That's it.
Okay, and what about?
I mean, that's what he said.
And
Yeah,
what,
he's
what-
just the
and what-
producer
and
of it.
what about checking the gun?
someone else's
That's the
job.
head armor.
Yeah.
No, well, George Clooney said that he always does it. What
And he
about
said,
that?
Can we get
and,
back to
and,
Travis
he
Scott?
said-
Yeah.
and he said,
But the
good for
point
George
is-
Clooney.
My point is, when
Right.
you open the door,
Exactly.
Yes, the floodgates.
yeah.
But my
Okay.
point is, what Travis did that Alec Baldwin was way too forthcoming. Travis just danced. He did a great dance. And every question that was asked of him, he did not answer directly, or he completely avoided it and just said his talking points. He stuck to his talking
Right,
points.
but the problem
which
is
didn't-
everybody knows that, and so it's like you're listening and saying,
Well,
he's
and that's
just doing a dance
Yeah.
there.
right, and
Yeah.
and by the way, that is exactly what the attorneys and the families of the victims felt when they saw this interview. We've spoken to 3 different attorneys for families, and they all said, "Look, there's no healing that came from this," because Travis said the reason he did this is that he wanted to start the healing process with his fans, with the families of the victims. They all said there's no healing that came from this because he didn't take responsibility.
Yeah.
And he's not going to in an interview. So to Courtney's point, I'm sorry, Courtney Esquire, right?
Yes,
Um,
thank you.
Don't do the interview.
Okay, I have one other question, then we got to move on.
Oh my God, you're gonna ask me something. I'm gonna fail this.
If you,
Oh my God, it's gonna be like
that's
that
no.
Mark.
I hope it's not spelling or math.
No,
I know.
this will be simple math.
Oh
No,
boy.
no.
If it took you 7 years to graduate college, how long would it take you to graduate law school?
Well, one, it took me 8, so the same amount of time.
Okay, so we are only going to spend 3 minutes on this, and then we're going to pull the plug. Simone Biles should not have been named Athlete of the Year.
I agree. We can
agree.
be done.
Do we all agree on this?
No, we don't agree.
Oh,
course.
okay.
Why? There were so many other good athletes.
I'm
going to
need more than 3 minutes here. Hang on a second.
Oh boy, buckle up.
Athlete of the Year is for the athlete who's done something extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
As an
Name-
athlete.
Can
Yes, as an athlete.
Yeah.
And
Naomi Osaka. And Naomi Osaka should have got it if they
Na-
gave
hold
Sumi
on, hold
Lee.
on, hold on. Naomi Osaka could get it as well.
Because
she didn't.
However, because I'm sorry, but Simone Biles was on a bigger stage, and there were more
No, she
people
actually
paying
never
attention.
even went on the stage.
Well, she did a few times. But
Yeah,
honestly,
she did actually,
Naomi
you know.
But not where
Osaka
the
was
team
at
needed her.
At a tennis championship, she didn't go to that because of her mental illness. And
I
that's
believe it was the U.S. Open, was
it was the U.S.
Yeah.
Open.
Which
and
is
that,
not
by
the Olympics. I'm
That's
sorry.
a huge
That's a
stage.
huge
The US
stage
And
for
by the
women.
way,
and that
it's
gave
the
them-
Olympics.
But that
Hold
opened
on,
up
wait.
Simone
Hold on,
Biles
hold on.
to do
Let's
what
get-
she
hold on,
did.
let's get to the
Simone
point.
Biles could have made a lot of money off of this. Simone, rather Naomi Osaka, and I don't think you can diminish Naomi Osaka, but I think
I'm not diminishing
both
Naomi
of them were really admirable for what they did.
You're right.
And because what they're
Look,
doing is they're putting,
they could have named them both. That's fine.
or they could have said,
This
look,
was Time magazine, by the way. so-
all I'm saying is it's admirable what both of them did because it's showing that athletes are people and that they have mental struggles.
Which
and
is something extraordinary, something we never thought about. We never even had this conversation
Really?
about.
Because Marty
I
Fish
know
did
you were
the-
going to say Marty Fish.
Marty Fish,
He was
and nobody
Everyone
talked about
knows-
Marty Fish until the documentary that was
Everyone
on
knows
Netflix.
the pressure of going to the Olympics, of being an athlete. That is
But
not a
no one
surprise.
By the
ever-
way,
no one
Michael-
ever
Michael-
talked about. Hold on,
Michael Phelps did.
no one
Michael
ever.
Phelps.
No one ever. Michael Phelps talked about his mental health after And it's great that he did, but after he was in the Olympics.
He became a spokesperson.
He is, yes, he is. And he's doing a great job of it. But listen to me. No one ever had the conversation about athletes are people. They are not just machines who go in there and perform.
Michael Phelps
that sometimes they're going to have a mental break and they can't actually perform. And we had to have the conversation about whether that's okay.
We've had the conversation
That's
before.
right. And we never had that conversation. That was an extraordinary thing that an athlete did.
We have had the conversation.
And it had never been done on this stage. Simone Biles, Athlete of the Year. Way to go, Time Magazine.
But this is why
All
she
right, we're
should.
done.
No,
Athlete,
because she hurt her
Where's the clock?
teammate. She was a terrible teammate.
She
What
also
about-
I'm sorry, I
took
can't hear
someone
you. We're
else's
overtime.
place
What
that
about
was in
Suni
there.
Lee?
Sorry.
What about
Yeah.
Suni Lee stepping in?
Suni Lee was
But
tremendous.
she actually performed as an
and
athlete.
she was there for her
And
team.
she can be Associated Press
We're done.
Athlete of the Year.
Okay, if you want to watch our podcast, you can watch it anywhere.
Google, Spotify, watch us on YouTube.
I'll see you on Monday. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye.